Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and call this November 25th regular city commission meeting to order. I do have one small change. I'm going to make, if you look on your agenda, under item 7, the second item under 7 is the data referendum. Just so I can start keeping these two things separate in my mind, we're going to make data referendum election item 8, which will make remaining 2019 City Commission meeting schedule item 9. It is important to remember that our regular election is one item, our charter amendments are a second item, and the charter referendum is a whole other issue as well. So it's important to keep those mentally separated. And with that, I'd like to ask, I think we have our invocation approval of the agenda swapped on the agenda item, but we'll go ahead and get an approval of the agenda, and then we'll do our invocation. With those changes, can I have an approval of the agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hersom. Any questions or changes on the dais? Any questions or changes from the public? Hearing none, I'd like to invite Deacon Norfleet to the podium from First Baptist Church to give us tonight's invocation. If you would please rise for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, just thank you for this day, and thank you for the opportunity that we live in a free country, that we're able to come and run our own governments, Lord, and free to worship you. And I ask that you give us the wisdom to make decisions here tonight, Lord, and just guide our city and protect our country, Lord. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Deacon Norfleet. We appreciate it. All right. And our first item on the agenda is a presentation about the food drive.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner.
We didn't vote on the agenda.
Did we not take a vote on the agenda?
No.
Look at that. I'm so eager to get to the food drive. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Farnsworth. I love your ringtone, by the way. It's beautiful. Oh. Mr. Manager, tell us about how did our Thanksgiving food drive go here in the city?
This is me? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to tell you how we did. As you know, annually, I say the city, it really is the city. It starts out with staff. Staff has a friendly competition to see who can raise the most food for Thanksgiving for needy families in our community. But being a team full of creative, ambitious, want-to-win the title kind of people, it ends up being a community-wide, because we reach out to the community and we solicit their support. And an example of that would be the executive area, which is Judy and Amy, Sierra, and myself. Felt like we were way behind, and so I think Amy reached out to Argos and got 25 turkeys donated, helped us stay in the running there. But so we also this year, because sometimes it's hard to just clear out cans, or you end up giving a bunch of green beans for Thanksgiving. You feel a little bit guilty about that, so we were soliciting cash donations this year. Our team, our staff, with the help of the community, raised $615 in cash that was given to Blessed Hope. I think we have a check for that. We also, Owen Businesses donated $120, so the total cash donation for the food drive was $735. The employees at Argos were all awarded turkeys. This is pretty generous in the spirit of Thanksgiving. They were awarded turkeys, but those that felt like they had it covered at home paid it forward, and they gave 25 of their employees gave 25 of their turkeys to the city to give to needy families in our community. And the food donations between city staff and the community totaled 552 pounds. So bragging rights this year go to planning and economic development. That's Brian and Janine and Wendy and their whole team in the Little Red Schoolhouse. They really killed it. They had $400 in cash and 57 pounds of food. And I think for the 5th consecutive year, we have 6 departments. So for the fifth consecutive year, a different team won. And for the fourth year, executive was runner-up. So we are the bridesmaid quite often. We did push it over the top one time. I'm sure there was some embellishment of the rules going on when that happened. But
Last
we,
minute additions, I seem to recall.
yeah, or maybe a foot on the scale or something like that. So we're hoping next year's bigger and better. We appreciate the community, and especially just our team. You know, it's, the team that make up the employees of the city of Newberry. They really dig deep, and putting together this type of donation for a community our size is really impressive, and I'm very appreciative to work with such a giving group of people.
Thank you, Mike. And Ms. Montgomery, you're here to receive the check on behalf of Blessed Hope. If you would meet me at the podium, and let's present this to you.
Amy.
We are so grateful for the work you and all you do over at Blessed Hope.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. I would like to thank everyone here that had participated in this organization helping Blessed Hope out. We had an additional 102 turkeys given to us. So we were able to make some people very, very happy. There were people that said, let's play it forward. We have a turkey, give it to someone in need. And when somebody says something like that, it just touches my heart. Because there are people out there that just say, oh, you know, I'll take the turkey anyway. But to say, you know, give it to someone else in need, that really touches my heart. And I have a real compassion for Blessed Hope. The last giveaway was the third Tuesday in October, in this month, November. And we broke our all-time record of giving food out to 301 families that particular day. And that was just, I mean, we were grabbing things that I don't know where they came from, but they got put in the bags. And the time before that, I was so ashamed of what we gave the people because Farm Share did not come through that particular week for us like they usually do. And we had a little bag like this that we gave out to all these families. And when you've got 7, 8, 9, 10 people in the family, and you get a little bag like this, and you get a little bag like that of chicken, you hate to hand somebody something like that. But they all took it very well. They said, anything we get, we are thankful for. And I just am so thankful that they have thankful hearts. And more are coming up to us and saying, thank you so much for what you're doing for us. We appreciate everything that you give and do for us. And we try to throw in little extras every once in a while to surprise them. And I just really thank the city of Newberry for stepping forward, doing what you did for us this year. It will not go unnoticed, that's for sure. And like I have said before, the money, the $735, we can buy food from Bread of the Mighty for 18 cents a pound. So that money will go a long ways in helping us provide food for the needy. And we're not just feeding people in Newberry. They're coming from the woodwork, so to speak. I mean, just every direction. I've never seen so many people, new people that are needing food and needing things. And I even heard at Bread of the Mighty the other day that they were having trouble coming up with food to give to the agencies that need the food. So Newberry is really blessed by the city of Newberry. And so you're great in our eyes, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We're blessed to have Blessed Hope in our community, and I just want to express on behalf of the commission and myself how proud we are of the city of Newberry employees, how hard you guys push the food drive, how much fun you have with it with the community. It is a bright, shining star in the year. So thank you all. Please pass that on to the employees that aren't here tonight. Any comments from the commission? All right, we will move to our public announcements. These are the 2-minute, non-controversial. Maybe you had a successful festival or successful Lions Club rodeo over the weekend you want to brag about, come on down.
Good evening. Lisa Tate, citizen and with Newbury Main Street. I wasn't really prepared to do the presentation, but I jotted a couple of things down. It was a huge success. We had, there's Joy, she might be able to help me finish, 95 vendor spots that we sold. It was a little bit less than last year, and we kind of did that on purpose so we didn't have the side streets. Those vendors were a little bit unhappy. Everybody loved it, had nothing but good comments. Lots of good support. Certainly appreciate all of the city support, the gentlemen that were there in the morning and helped us get so many things together. The students, many vendors commented that they were so thankful that the students were there to help them put up tents and take down Dudley Farms. An older lady was there by herself, and the students jumped right in and helped her get her tents up and down and get things done. So certainly thanks to the city and Jordan and your students. And I believe we saw most of you there, so thank you all for your support and showing up and seeing your faces. So that's all I have. Jordan,
Thank
have a
you.
little more.
Perfect. Any other public announcements?
I'm Marlon Day with the library here tonight. Next week is our annual gingerbread house decorating program. It's going to be December the 5th. We're going to have 4 sessions at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. The program requires attendees to sign up beforehand. We always fill up every year. They can sign up on our website, aclib.us/Newberry. The sessions are almost full. We still have some spots in the 3 o'clock and I think the 4 o'clock. So I would encourage everybody to register today if they'd like to attend the gingerbread house decorating.
What's the date on that again?
December the 5th, Thursday, a week from Thanksgiving. The Wednesday after that, on December the 11th, we are having a vision board party. Adults and teens are welcome to bring your ideas about what you would like to accomplish in the upcoming months and years, quotes that inspire you, and magazine or newspaper clippings that reflect your hopes and dreams. All of the other supplies are going to be supplied, and we'll create a vision board, which is kind of something you can hang up to inspire you throughout the whole year. There'll be a demonstration on how to make a portable one, and then we'll make our own with the supplies provided. I'd like to ask that you share those 2 items with your constituents.
All right.
I don't know if anybody else is here from the Lions Club. We did have a rodeo.
You can have a whole other 2 minutes just for the Lions
Just
Club.
for the Lions
You got
Club.
different hats, you get 2 different minutes.
All right. I was there Friday night, and it was full house pretty much Friday night. I wasn't able to attend Saturday night. I was kind of tuckered after the fall festival.
Oh, I don't know why.
I don't know why either. So I don't know what the final numbers are, but as soon as I get those tomorrow night's meeting, I'll share them with you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the dais? Any other public comment?
Can I have my second 2 minutes for a different hat?
Sure.
I can't let Marlon get ahead of me.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lisa Tate again. I did want to mention that we have, I believe there were 20-something entries for the Iconic Art Contest.
Awesome.
And
20 entries.
I think it was 20.
That's great.
You may know, you were one of the judges. 22, 24.
Yeah.
So that has all been decided. I don't know who knows it, and I don't know who the winner is yet, so that's all remains to be seen. We are working very diligently to have our part of the lighting of the tree, and we have gotten a Santa chair and things like that all in order. Is that a minute? Okay.
Good
I
job.
just wanted to
Well,
mention.
we are excited about December 6th for the tree lighting ceremony, the winner of the 125-year art contest. That's going to be a big night for us. And there's something else going on that night as well.
Put the flags up in the park for the trees.
Yes. I'll talk about that at the end of the night. So, any other public comment? Come on down, sir.
How's everybody?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
Doing well. Mr. Mayor, I'm James Thompson, resident of unincorporated Alachua County, just drove in from out west on Williston Road. And I'm here this evening as a member of the Alachua County Charter Review Commission, which has convened and met a few times. And we're, as you probably know, we're a 12-member board appointed by the county commission to listen to public input from residents from Newberry and everywhere else in the county. And our purpose is to propose and hopefully put on the ballot any proposed amendments to the county charter that should be heard or merit being heard or voted on by the public. And I can tell you from working with my colleagues on the county charter review so far, we're very assertively devoted to advertising, going before the public, getting public input. Our web portal is up. Any citizen can submit a proposal for an amendment to the charter. Doesn't have to be ballot language. It can just be an idea. And there's a process set out to hear that and go through that. And to that end, we're going around visiting the city commissions in the county and letting people know about it. And I have some flyers here tonight with contact info and the web portal. And if you go there, you can also see every single document that has come before us or that we exchange with each other that our legal staff has produced. It's probably one of the most transparent web-based public records situations that I've seen. And we do have generally in the county with the city commissions really good public records access. So if you'll permit me, after I finish, I'll
Please.
approach the dais. I'll leave those with the Madam Clerk and I'll give you a few copies of those, and you can visit our website. And like I said, everything up there that we're doing is available, open to the public.
Could you read the website off for the folks watching at home?
It is, sure. And I wasn't sure if we were on screen or not, but I did bring some
You are
things.
on camera. So
Okay, well, I don't know.
You
if
just can't see yourself.
I can't
Yes.
see myself, okay. So for people at home, the website is charterreview@alachuacounty.us, and that's spelled CHARTERREVIEW at Alachua County, one word, .us. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
I appreciate you coming out and giving us that presentation. Are there any questions from the dais? So charterreview.alachua County, RE, correct. Right? And we'll have the reviews. Maybe we can put it up on our website as a link or an announcement. Does the Charter Review Committee for the county, are you acting as an advisory board to the county commission, or your recommendations go straight to the people?
Technically, I can't answer that explicitly, but the process is that everything that we move forward, it could be denied by the commission, but I believe it's on a supermajority vote. So it's a fairly strong advisory board is how I would characterize it.
So if people have proposals, it is beneficial to lobby and advocate with the Charter Review Committee directly.
Absolutely, and I think the commissioners themselves on the public record at meetings have made fairly clear, in my opinion as a private citizen, as an individual, have made very clear that they would rather see things come through the Charter Review Commission or certain things, because that's really an appointed board of citizens, and it's not the same old, very awesome, but the same old elected people up there. It's a more independent board. Yeah.
What is the timeline for residents to really get their issues in front of you guys? What's the sort of the break
I would
dead?
say as early as possible, and the reason is because we have to have 3 public hearings before anything moves forward. We also vet it through our attorney. We have a wonderful attorney. And we also then send it to the county commission, and then it has to go to Madam Supervisor at the Supervisor of Elections office. And there's, I believe, a 90-day window before the actual day, the election day that she has to have it. So
And this will be on in the fall?
yes, so it does
So
need to
February is sort
it
of
needs to
the
be
end of
as
the
soon as-
process
As
at
soon
that
as
point.
possible, I think people need to go ahead and start getting
That's
their
record
ideas.
time, because your board just got put together, right? We had a couple residents that applied to be on it, and
I
that was
believe we convened in August,
in August.
but I believe we've made good progress. We've done a lot of procedural stuff, established rules and processes and so forth. They only meet every 10 years, so it's not easy to use the last commission's processes, and you kind of have to come up with your own.
We're at
rules.
the very end of ours, so
I
we're
saw
well.
that, yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
It's not
We
easy.
appreciate it. I've got one more question here, Commissioner Coleman.
Is single-member districts the number one thing on there?
Right now, there have been no proposals put forth We really just convene, and this is normal for a charter review commission at the county. Until the portal is up and until the rules and procedures are made, it's my understanding that, we didn't have a lot of ready-made, hot-button Gainesville Sun everyday issues, kind of like the city of Gainesville did. You read about that every day in the big newspaper. So, no, there has not been anything put forward. I've heard about people wanting to move things forward, but I've not seen actually put up on our portal yet.
Well, now you know the website to go to.
It's right there.
There you go. Any other questions? Thank you for coming out here tonight and talking to us. I don't
Thank
believe
you.
they did this last time. I wasn't here that long ago, but we appreciate the
Yeah, we're making a point to
increased-
put it out there. And,
Yeah.
and by the way, I enjoyed the homecoming dance, and the
Thank you.
football game was great too. It didn't work out great for the team, but it was fun.
Yeah, I agree. He was one of our chaperones at the homecoming dance. We appreciate you being there. All right, other public comment. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we're on to public hearings and ordinances. First up is the fiscal year 2018-19 final budget amendment. It's Resolution 2019-40. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-40, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting final amendments to the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget and providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Go ahead, Mr. Dallas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. As you know, at the end of each fiscal year, the Finance Department completes a review of all of our receipts and expenditures for each of your funds and your departments. We identify if any budget variances have occurred that need to be corrected. I'm happy to report that no variances have occurred this year that need to be corrected. This is, I believe, the third year in a row that we've not had a budget variance. The resolution before you tonight adopts the final budget. It's pretty much just ratifying previous budget amendments you guys have passed, as well as maybe some interdepartmental changes. So, it's Resolution 2019-40.
Any questions for Dallas? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Herschel. Any comments on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Before we move to the next one, I just want to take note that, it has, our budget has run so smoothly the past 3 years that we take it for granted that budgets and audits run this smoothly. But I think local news would show us that that's not always the case. So I want to commend our team for the work that you guys do to make sure that everything is always transparent and crystal clear. And I appreciate you guys for helping us and the whole city look so good. Okay. Item number 5, fiscal year 2019-2020 budget amendment, resolution 2019-41. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-41, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting final amendments to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget and providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay. Mr. Dallas.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the City Commission may remember, late in the season of the budget season this year, we got good notification from the property appraiser that we'd be receiving additional funding through our ad valorem property taxes. In October, the property appraiser did certify our final taxable value, which resulted in about $150,000 in additional revenue to the city. Based on conversations that the City Commission had in the budget process, we have brought forward a budget resolution, a budget amendment, to appropriate $20,000 of that funding for striping of Southwest 46th Avenue, $60,000 for repairing a road subsidence, also on Southwest 46th Avenue, as well as the installation of fencing around retention ponds in Newberry Oaks for about $20,000. Additionally, staff requests $26,500 for recoating of fire hydrants within the city, which leaves a balance of $23,500 for the commission to appropriate or place in reserves, should you wish.
Okay, so you guys have already allocated 100,000 of it. You got about 50,000 to go. Staff is requesting about half of that to go to the fire hydrants paint job. which would leave you about 25,000. If you adopt the resolution as it is in your backup material, you'll adopt that fire hydrant project with it, correct? So the first conversation I think needs to happen is that, do you want to go ahead and move forward with the fire hydrant painting project, which I think the manager can certainly speak to. If you do, then we can go ahead and have a motion on the, right here, and then we can have a conversation about what to do with the remaining $25,000. So, you want to hear from the manager on the fire hydrant project? Okay, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I somehow got my wires crossed. I prepared, some slides to help for visual aids, but somehow I managed to get them misplaced, and they're not in this slide deck, the one that you can see. But per the commission's direction in September, when we were preparing the budget, we carried 3 projects forward until we could get to this budget amendment. And that was the road striping on 46th, we're calling it subsidence repair, but we know it as the dip on 46th, and the fencing of certain retention basins in Newberry Oaks. This doesn't get every one. It's the one that we have recognized sinkhole development in. And those were $20,000, $60,000, and $20,000 respectively. And the commission asked us to bring those forward. In the meantime, we saw an opportunity to get more value out of our fire hydrant painting program. The city has historically recoded its fire hydrants using fire department personnel, and when you're using city staff, it's hard to get a coating system that has any type of extended life. So we were looking at ways to end up with a better end product, be more efficient, and we ran across a contractor that's already under contract in the state of Florida, a contract that we could piggyback. It has a very competitive price of $78 per hydrant, and they're offering a 10-year warranty because they have a superior coating system. And I would just tell you that we could obtain the coating system, but our personnel couldn't apply it. It is just, it's got a 30-minute pot life. It takes a coating specialist to do it. We can do rattle can or latex paint type of paint job. So, but they come in and they can do them in high volume. And so their proposal is that they could do the piggyback, but they would like to do a large volume at once because they want to, be efficient. And so we haven't painted fire hydrants in 3 years. Our fire department had got behind while we were doing the fire station renovations. It's part of ISO's evaluation of our community when they come in. So there is a level of significance to us, not only in maintaining our fire hydrants, but we want ISO to see our fire hydrant and our fire protection systems as robust. So when we looked at this to paint all of our fire hydrants and get a 10-year life out of them, it ended up being $26,000 or an annualized cost of $2,600 a year over the 10-year period. We know that our labor effort each year by the fire department to do the 10% a year that they would do along those same lines would exceed that. So we thought this was a great opportunity to get them all done at once to end up with a really higher than we could ever ask for type coating system. This is going to be better than the factory original and realize cost savings, although it's more upfront, and we'll see the real savings will come in years 2 through 10. So that's kind of the idea behind that. The staff requests $26,500 in funding for fire hydrant repair. It's not an end of the world. The world won't come to an end if we don't do it, but we think this is a great opportunity. This contract may not be around next year. They're in the tail ends of doing. The city of Kissimmee is the one that actually has the contract, and I'm not sure when it will sunset with them, but when it does, we wouldn't have an opportunity to take advantage of it. So that concludes my comments about it. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thoughts, Commissioner Farnsworth?
Mike, do they just do the painting, or do they do like maintenance around the fire hydrant, or they weed eat or clean up the area? Or?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. They would do enough weed cleanup so that they could get at the fire hydrant and have an effective coating program. our fire department puts hands on every fire hydrant every year. We do it, we flow test every fire hydrant every year, and typically they have been recoating them at that time. But they've been a little pressed for time when they've been out in the last couple of years because they always needed to get back to work on the fire station. So they have just been flowing them and not doing regular other maintenance activities. So we, other than the regular weed eating that they would need so that they could get at a fire hydrant to prep it and recoat it, they wouldn't do anything above and beyond that.
But they will put in a work order, so if they find a fire hydrant that is
Absolutely.
tilted over, they notify us so that it moves up on our radar, we
Absolutely.
go fix it. Other thoughts on this?
And Mr. Mayor, while we included it, if the commission says we don't want to include it with the 3 that we asked for, that's fine with us too. We can make the adjustments to Exhibit A so that the commission's will carries forward. We just, I don't know, we were presumptive, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
Commissioner Herson?
Well, I appreciate the presumption once in a while because to me, it's a savings when you say that it will cost us less to do this program than it would be to do it ourselves. Then, to me, that's the selling point of that in terms of getting that accomplished, maintaining that maintenance of the product. So I would see it as, I would support utilizing that $26,500 for the recoating.
Other commission thoughts, questions, suggestions? On 46, Commissioner Norfleet.
On the striping for 46th Avenue, is that going to be the whole from 27 to whatever the other road is, 337?
Is that from 337, does it stop at 27, or is it going to continue across to the end of our maintenance, which is close to 170th? Okay, no, yeah, so it'd be west of 27.
Was that going with thermoplastic?
That is, it is
Just regular paint?
regular paint.
What's the time frame on, do y'all have an estimated time frame on the resurfacing of that road and repairing the whole road?
We've called for locates, so I think we need to bid the
But I think
asphalt.
Commissioner Norfleet's question is about resurfacing the entire road, not just the part that has the,
Oh,
Right.
we do not have that project. We don't have a resurfacing of the entire road in the 5-year window.
other questions? I just always think it's a good idea for you guys to think about it, because we have an extensive CIP list. And it's rare that this commission has, some money to decide what to do with. So I agree with Commissioner Herson's comments that this is a way to save money over the long term, but it's also, it's never been anything that this board that's been on y'all's radar. So I applaud staff for identifying something that we could do that would save us some money, but it is just worth noting that, there's a whole long list of things that you guys would like to get done. So if everybody's comfortable with that, I have a motion on the floor. I do not have a motion on the floor. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll entertain a motion at this time. I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet. I have a second from Commissioner Herson. Are there any more questions from the dais on the motion on the floor to adopt Resolution 2019-41, which includes the striping on 46? What did you call the sinkhole? The subsidence repair, the fencing around the stormwater, and now the fire hydrant. Any questions from the public on those 4 things? Commissioner Farnsworth.
What about the remaining, 23,000?
That'll be the next conversation. Questions from the public? We have we have striping, which is a $40,000. No, $20,000. We have $20,000 for striping. We have the repair for the pavement. Yeah, the road repair which is, the road repair is $60,000. You got all 4? Okay. All right, hearing no questions from the public, Commissioner Martin, question.
I have a little hesitation to jump at the fire hydrants at the moment. I'd like to go back and look at the CIP, what we maybe didn't do, and get a better idea of the time frame that we're looking at with the other, and whether we can maybe do half or something like that with the vendor. Now that the renovation is done with the fire hydrant, I respect the other things you're talking about with the quality of it, but that's just kind of my thought. I'm not saying no at this in forever, but I guess maybe just no for now at the moment.
Mike, what is I know we're kind of under a time crunch to lag onto this. Do you think we can bring that back at, I don't want to pause on the first three. The commission's already voted on those. Could we bring the fire hydrant back at the meeting in December? Or or will this guy be gone by then?
No. I think Jamie's probably had more conversations with the vendor than I have. Do you know if this is something they need to get started in the next quarter? Or they weren't thinking of starting before January 1st, were they?
Mayor, Commissioners, know that if we were authorized the funding for the project, they were not anticipating mobilizing for the first of the year.
So we could wait till December?
Yes, you could.
Okay. What's the thought from the rest of the commission? Because we have a motion on the floor, it's properly seconded right now to adopt this resolution, which already has the wording for the fire hydrants in it. Would you like to reconsider the motion and pull it out, or does the rest of the commission feel pretty good about the fire hydrants and want to move forward? It was Commissioner Norfleet's motion. Commissioner Farnsworth seconded it. Commissioner Hersom seconded. Thoughts, Commissioner Farnsworth?
I'm just not quite sure what the benefit in delaying is. Maybe you can explain it to me a little more. Are we trying to save more money, or?
No, I think that the idea is that, we have a list of 50 items on our CIP. And so instead of jumping at one, which may have a long-term cost benefit, just having the opportunity to go back and kind of refresh our brains about what's on that CIP that would also be in that $25,000 range, or maybe there's two things that you could do out of that $25,000 range, or maybe there's one thing you could do for the remaining $50,000, that kind of a thing. So if we move forward with the fire hydrant tonight, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's infrastructure, it's good, but it may prevent your ability to do something else that has been on this commission's brain to accomplish, that's on the CIP list. So I'm not sure that our CIP list is necessarily prioritized, but things certainly move up that you guys bring up, and that was my only comment about, I haven't heard you guys talk about fire hydrants, but you wouldn't, because it's something that happens at an operational level that the fire department usually does. So this is kind of privatizing what has been an in-house concept. So I think what Commissioner Martin is asking is, let's have a couple weeks to look at that CIP list and come back. So, but if the rest of the board is just ready to move forward, then you can move forward. Commissioner Coleman.
If we got till December, I think I'm gonna go along with Commissioner Martin that let's because the whole time I'm sitting here going, maybe the CIP list is fixing to come up here, just because I know a couple of them that's on there. So if we could delay it till the 9th or whatever, I'm all for that.
Well, it's always problematic whenever you put a list of 20 things up there that you try to work that out on the fly. So I would say, if the commission is amenable to Commissioner Martin's request, then we'll have staff send out that list. Everybody can kind of review it, and then we can bring it back on the 9th, and we can see. We do have a conversation to have about the other 25 as well, so we could add that as a discussion item right after this. So, Mr. Attorney?
I do have one, because if it's a cost savings already, I know we don't need to lose on our, if this is also going to help with our insurance, that's what I worry about. Because that just ends up costing the citizens more if our insurance is higher. It's the only thing, that's why I kinda kept my mouth shut through here. So I'm like, well, okay, we're gonna save money on this, and I don't want our insurance to go up. That's our biggest thing.
There's a lot of arguments in favor. There are. I don't perceive Commissioner Martin's comments as being against it.
No, me neither.
I think he's just asking for more time to look at what else is out there. But I agree, the insurance costs, allowing our firefighters to focus on firefighting instead of painting fire hydrants, all of those would be benefits. So, do we want to just vote on this and let it fail? Or do we want a motion to reconsider pulling out the fire hydrant? That way the other three can move forward.
Well,
You can just offer an amendment to delete it.
you could revise your motion or withdraw the motion and make a new motion.
You want to,
Remove-
Commissioner Norfleet, you want to withdraw your motion? You want to revise the motion to remove the fire hydrant? And Commissioner Herson, will you second that revision?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a revised
Yes.
motion from Commissioner Norfleet, a revised second from Commissioner Herson. Any more questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any questions from the public on the revised motion on the floor? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. So at this point, what you guys will see on the 9th will be a roughly $50,000 surplus. Staff, if you'd send that CIP, you want to take the top 10 things off the CIP list so we don't get bogged down? You want the top 15, something like that? Okay.
Is it going to be anything or anything that fits under the $50,000 cap?
Well, I think that it ostensibly would be anything that fits under the $50,000.
It has to be anything in the general fund.
Right.
Money can't be used for utilities. I mean, it can be, but.
So I think
you do
what we should
gymnastics
get
to it.
is staff prioritize, 10 things that this commission has been talking about for the past couple of years. Put that on there, put the fire hydrant on there as well. One project that I would ask to be on there, and the manager can speak to that as well, because our staff has done an amazing job working with a developer in town. I know that almost everybody up here has probably received a complaint from Newberry Place about the lack of a sidewalk from Newberry Place to Oakview Middle School. And Mr. Manager, you want to appropriately give the laurels to staff for being able to work out this deal?
Absolutely. Staff killed it. No, I'm kidding. In 2006, when Newberry Place was approved, there was a developer's agreement that required the developer to put in a sidewalk from the development to Oakview Middle School. Well, the development was completed in terms of platting and the developer's responsibility sometime around 2008, 2009. Sidewalk never happened. The developer dissolved. The company that was the developer is dissolved and has been gone now for close to a decade. But they were their parent company is Miranda, the home builder. So we contacted Miranda, the home builder, and said, hey, we think you need to build a sidewalk. And they said, well, the city told us a decade ago we didn't need to. They relieved us of that responsibility. There's no documentation that they were relieved of the responsibility. But, then they started suggesting things like statute of limitations is passed, and the city had submitted some letters of acceptance of some infrastructure, and they felt like that may cover it. But in the end, they said, well, what do you think? And I think they initially offered us about $4,000 or $5,000 towards the sidewalk project. And so we estimated the cost of the sidewalk to be right at $65,000, and we asked them would they entertain a 50-50 split. Our commission 4 or 5 years ago was ready to move forward on our own nickel with some transportation gas tax money. And I said, if you would entertain a 50-50 split, I would pitch it to the commission. So late last week, they notified the city attorney's office, who was taking kind of the lead on the negotiations, that they would do a 50-50 split. We plan to present it to you at the next city commission meeting. But if that moves forward, we would need about, our match is $32,500. Your current budget, you approve it with $10,000 in sidewalks. So we would need, $22,500 in addition to the $32,500 if we wanted, in addition to the 10, if we wanted to proceed on that project this year. So it's an opportunity project. You've seen it a bunch of times, but now we're getting it at half price, so it may move it up the priority list if you know that you're getting it for 50 cents on the dollar.
Commissioner Martin.
Yeah, I seem to remember that project because if I'm not mistaken, the County Public Works Department put in a bid competing against private enterprise, wanting to further utilize their own department to do that project, if I remember right. And I was quite appalled by that, actually.
Other thoughts on, I would ask that project be in the considerations. What's the timeline for the 50-50 split deal? Is that good for time certain, or is that
I think
on the
that,
table?
that they're going to want, they recommend that if we accept their offer, that we revise the developers agreement to incorporate it, and so they'll know that they can close this thing out once and for all. So I think it would probably take, a month to 6 weeks to get an agreement put together, get it in front of you, and then there would be, the way they propose to pay it is one building permit at a time. So, they're going to have to pull 32 building permits. They're going to give us $1,000 extra per building permit that they pull. So I don't know how fast they're building homes around here, but I think they're probably doing more than 32 homes a year in our community. So, we'd probably collect the money in the years. If we have the agreement, then I think we would feel comfortable with a bridge loan where we would expend the funds whenever we get the design ready and we get bids accepted, and then just reimburse wherever the funding came from as we get our $1,000 per building permit from Miranda.
Can you remind me, Mike, how long that sidewalk would be to get from Newberry Place all the way to the middle school?
Right about 2,600 feet, round numbers.
Okay.
It was really nicely done in my slide deck that I somehow didn't manage to get into your slide deck.
Okay.
Nice visuals.
So the fire hydrants will be under consideration on the 9th. The sidewalk will be under consideration on the 9th, and then staff will find us, 8 to 10 other projects that we've been talking about that we could expend the money on, so that we have a nice full-fledged conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay? Any other questions on that before we move on? We have a vote on the revised, no, we had a vote on the revised motion. Yeah, this was just a conversation. Yeah, you're trying to throw me off there, right? Okay, all right, then, thank you, Dallas.
Thank you.
Moving on to the first item on the agenda is disaster debris removal and disposal services contract award. Mr. Jones, contracts.
Good evening again. The item we have before you is on disaster debris removal services. We're requesting that the board authorize the city manager to execute pre-event FEMA compliant 5-year contracts for disaster debris removal services for hurricane or other disaster events. We recognize the fact that we did not have any FEMA compliant contracts in place. That's something that we've been working towards for several years. We were able to get the request for proposals out. We had 7 respondents. We've evaluated all the responses and deemed that every contractor is both responsible and responsive to the conditions of the RFP, and that they are a recognized contractor within FEMA's program. So what we would like to do is go ahead and execute these pre-event contracts. There's no cost to the city whatsoever. Each individual contract is identical, except it does have the attachments from that contractor. There's hourly rates. Unless we mobilize them, there are no cost to the city. If we have a hurricane event, sustain major damage like Hurricane Michael or whatnot, we can mobilize them. One of the reasons we're recommending that you execute contracts with all 7, if we have a major event in the southeast, all the governmental entities, not only in the state of Florida, but Georgia and Alabama and adjacent states would be drawing from the same pool of contractors. So it's possible if you execute a contract with one, they may not be available. They may be working for a larger governmental entity or tied up in another area in the United States. So at least by executing contracts with all of our respondents, that gives us 7 that are available at no cost to the city unless you mobilize them.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Commissioner Farnsworth?
If we do have to use them, will we get reimbursed reimbursed from FEMA?
Yes, we would. They typically are certified with FEMA. They've worked for FEMA before. They also understand the fact that they are not the most knowledgeable of the community. So what they do is they enter into subcontracts with local vendors and local contractors who know the community. They ensure that so the subcontractors meet all the stipulations required for FEMA reimbursement. As a companion of this, we'll be coming back to the commission sometime in the next month or two with the debris monitoring side. FEMA requires that you have a separate monitoring entity that ensures is what's being picked up by the contractor, any subcontractor, is what they say it is and how much they say it is. And there will be no cost to that contract either unless you mobilize them and you have a hurricane event.
That Commissioner Farnsworth? Other questions from the dais from Jamie? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to authorize city manager to execute the city event FEMA compliant 5-year contract.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. A second from Commissioner Herschel. Any questions on the dais from the motion on the floor? Questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Roll call, Commissioner Coleman. Aye. Commissioner Herschel. Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth. Aye. Commissioner Martin. Aye. Commissioner Norfleet. Aye. The ayes have it 4-1. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Okay, and that moves us to item 7, which is just the Charter Review Committee recommendation. Now, we got all 5 commissioners here, so we're going to try to hash this out here tonight so we can get a final vote. I'd ask the commission let's try to make up our mind on these questions tonight, just in case we get into holidays and everybody gets a little busy, so that we can say for sure that we put this on the ballot with all 5 commissioners on record voting yea or nay.
Good evening, Commission. Back October 21st, we met and we spoke about all the charter revision recommendations from the board. And there were a few items that y'all wanted to have come back to you for discussion. So the first item.
And let's do them one at a time, and have the conversation about each of them.
That sounds great. The first item was part of Article 4, the City Commission, and we were discussing when a commissioner should take office after the election. Currently, the charter says it's immediately after the election, and the board had proposed changing that language so it would be within 10 days, or 10 days after the election and no more than 30. That would give potentially some time there in the event that there's a contest of the election to try to sort things out ahead of time. Does anyone have any comments on that? Do you prefer to keep it as swearing in immediately or move to swearing in 10 days after and no more than 30 days?
The pros of this one was, we mirror state law. We're operating within what they do. The cons seem to be more about tradition. The other pro is that it gives everybody a chance to get their family down here and those kinds of things. Any strong feelings about this one, or are we good to accept the committee's recommendation to mirror state language? Can we do each one of these as a head nod, or I got a thumbs up, I got a head nod. Okay, moving on. We're going to keep the 10-day. Good job. One down.
So the next change is Article 4, City Commission as well, Section 11, regarding the minimum age to qualify. Currently, we have you have to be 21 years old to qualify to run for an election, and we discussed potentially moving that down to 18 years old. There is no state statute governing one way or the other, so it's really your preference.
And when the Charter Review Committee decided to, I think, leave it at 21, there was a question, and Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that state law said 21. So now we have clarity on that issue. So state law does not. State law is 18. 18, you're an adult. So what's the commission feel? 18? I'm 18 years old. 18. I think the voters can decide if an 18-year-old is mature enough to take the dice, all right? So we're gonna move
All
it to 18. Where you're
right.
doing a wonderful job.
We're
Keep
making great
going.
progress, yeah. So the next section is Article,
On the ballot, right. We're not voting on it. We're saying this is what we're, referendum will go to the people to vote on, so.
and the other part of that, there's, will be two motions ultimately. One is to suggest for the referendum, only the changes from the board or the changes from the board plus these additional changes we're talking about tonight.
Wait a minute, say that again.
So the Charter Review Committee, not the board, they have proposed the version we saw October 21st.
Correct.
These changes are in addition to that. So 18 for the age to run for an election instead of 21 is in addition to what the Charter Review Committee.
Correct. But the charter that will go on the referendum to the people will be what the commission, the recommendations that the Charter Review Committee put forth, and then the ones that the commission accepted are the ones that they rejected.
Correct.
We're
So
not putting two charters in front of them.
that's correct. The first
Correct.
motion would be to approve the Charter Review Committee's recommendations with the exception of your additional
Correct.
changes
I'm
today.
with you now.
The
Okay.
second one would be to advise us to bring back an ordinance to call a referendum election, which is the
Okay.
next item on the agenda.
Right. Okay.
All right. So the next change was also in City Commission, Section 16, and it's just about who can call a special meeting. The Charter Review Committee had suggested allowing any member of the commission to call a special meeting. And last time we spoke about whether we want it to be a member of the commission plus the mayor instead of only one member.
And I'm not sure, there was somebody absent here last time. Well, we had a fairly extensive conversation about this and what happens if you get a commissioner who is obstinate or trying to make a political point and just keeps calling meeting after meeting after meeting. And that was why we went back to saying the mayor and the one commissioner. Of course, the default position is if you were in that situation with a commissioner that was doing that, if the other commission doesn't show up, then you don't have a quorum, so I'm not exactly, I can't, as long as everybody's acting in good faith, I can't imagine a situation where it wouldn't be okay for if a city commissioner, for some reason, had knowledge of something that needed to immediately be presented to the rest of the commission, shouldn't be allowed to do that. But under our current system, all that would mean is that commissioner would call the manager, who has the power to do it, or the mayor, who has the power to do it. So I think it's 6-1, half a dozen the other at this point. So what is the Commissioner Norfleet?
If you do leave it where one commissioner can call a special meeting, what's that going to require of staff to put that together?
Well, and that was why we, because there is an expense here, And again, if the only way a commissioner can call a special meeting is by getting a hold of the manager who can get everybody together, and the manager can already do it. So, but right now the manager could say, we don't need an emergency meeting to do that. I can do that, or there's another procedure. If we change it, then the manager has to call up everybody and bring staff in and all that kind of stuff. Commissioner Coleman?
Well, and you just brought something up good. My reservation last time we were here was, well, if you got this one commissioner that just keeps calling it and calling it and calling it. But you're right, and I didn't think about that. If the other commissioners are not in agreement, they don't show up, and so there's no quorum, and it's a dead deal anyway. So I changed my mind on that. Thanks for, okay.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
The only problem is that they can call a special meeting every day.
Well, which would drag staff down.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if the commission's not going to come, then staff would say there's no quorum. We're not.
Yeah, but
You're going to
gotta
have,
go through the motion.
right, we're going to have to go through 2 or 3 with that, in that situation, before you know that this person is using this as a political tool. I really don't see why we need to change the language the more I think about it, because the manager already has the power to call an emergency meeting. So, a special meeting. If a commissioner needs that special meeting, all he has to do is either convince the mayor or the manager, and it's called. So I think the check is good because it prevents it prevents abuse, I think. It's check and balance.
But if the mayor or the city manager don't agree, but maybe another commissioner agrees,
And the problem with our current wording is that it seems to encourage a sunshine violation, because if you can't get the mayor to do it, or the manager to do it, then you have to call. Now, asking another commissioner to agree to a meeting is not the same thing as having a conversation about how you will vote at that meeting, but it's definitely a gray area. I mean, one of the Newberry's advantages over other municipalities is that you have a non-voting mayor and a professional manager. So you've got two people. If somehow Newberry finds itself in a situation where they have one appointed person and one elected person who are obstinately not in favor of doing their job, I mean, I think the world has bigger problems at that point, you know.
As in the current
Current
language from the Charter Review Committee, or as it stands in the charter now?
As it stands in the charter now. Is that what we're saying? The mayor or any two members of the city commission. It's operated like that for 100 years.
what about the manager? Can he call?
The manager is already able to call.
That's what the proposed change. The proposed change from the Charter Review Committee says that the mayor, any member of the city commission, or the city manager may call the special meeting. Whereas as the charter reads right this second, it's the mayor or any two members of the city commission.
I think that's one of those holdovers from where the mayor ran the city things. So we want the mayor, the manager, or any two members of the commission to be able to call a special meeting.
Yes.
Thumbs up? Okay, I got at least 4 there and 1 halfway almost. Still processing, yeah. Okay?
So, the next change was regarding emergency meetings, and again, it was similar. We were looking at, the current language allows the mayor or the city manager, or a city commissioner to call a special meeting, and the Charter Review Workshop wanted to consider whether it should be the mayor, a member of the city commission together, or the city manager.
I would say we would mirror, for all of these, we would mirror manager, mayor, 2 commissioners. Thumbs up? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, perfect.
All right, so then the next item for discussion was also Section 16, City Commission, regarding conference session meetings. In the current proposed charter changes, there is no notice for a conference session, so there was discussion on adding in a notice, and 48 hours had been suggested as the notice before having a conference session meeting.
And that would simply mirror the language for the other meetings, correct?
Correct, that would mirror the
Except
language
the
for a
emergency meeting.
special meeting, I believe.
Right. So that was just sort of a keep everything uniform suggestion. Thumbs up? Okay, good.
Okay. So the next change was in executive officers, section 24. This wasn't actually discussed at the last meeting, but for consistency purposes, I did want to just bring it up for discussion. We currently have city manager, the minimum age to apply would be 21. And we talked about changing the age to run for mayor or city commission as 18. So I wanted to bring it to you to see if you wanted to modify that in both sections.
One of my questions when I saw that was, and I was not on the commission when we hired Mike, so are there any hard and fast qualifications for the city manager?
The commission at the time came up with their list of qualifications. So if my memory serves, they had to have a bachelor's degree. I think they asked for 10 years of experience. They had a whole list. Now, the interesting thing was in the process, the commission that voted on that list, the majority of them lost the next election. The new commission came in and disagreed with many of the things that were on that list. So I'm not sure. There are things in our personnel policy, but I'm not sure that there's nothing that overrides the commission's ability to say, I want that person.
So it is a relatively fluid list based on the created at the time of the selection.
Correct.
Okay.
And we created that list because we had enlisted the aid of the Florida League of Cities, and we wanted to give them some criteria to weed it out, because I want to say they looked at over 100 applications to narrow it down to 10, and none of the 10 that were on that list ended up being hired, actually. So, Commissioner Martin?
Is there a technique to just almost say that this can be determined at the time of the selection process?
So the minimum requirements for the city manager will be determined by resolution or
I mean,
by the requirements
Why
determined
is
by
the
the
age
I mean,
of
why
application
do we,
executive
I'm
officer in
saying
the
why,
charter?
why have any qualifications there at all and allow the sitting board to determine what those are? Because we're going to do it anyway, it sounds like.
Right, and Mr. Mayor, I believe that we could do it that way. I think the idea originally was that they had certain minimum qualifications for each executive officer, and that's why they were placed in there. But those can always be adjusted or removed as need be.
Well, if it's in the charter, we can't adjust it. So, when Commissioner Martin's making that comment, I'm wondering why is the age in there? Because I can understand why we're talking about the city manager has to live in the city limits. That should be in the charter. But the age doesn't seem to me to be a charter level requirement. And that was the driving force throughout this 10-month policy, is what is so important that it needs, that we want to deprive the commission of the ability to change it, and it needs to be in the charter. So I would say, based on that, this charter should be silent to the age of the executive.
With the one question, are there any business level activities that are age dependent? I'm thinking rent a car, sign a contract, things like that.
Absolutely, and I can't really conceive of a situation where a commission would hire an 18-year-old. At this point, I think you need some, if absent a degree, you need experience to replace the degree, which was the commission that came in, that was their stance, was they were less interested in the degrees that a person had and more interested in the experience that they had. But the ability to drive a city vehicle, to rent a city vehicle, to, those kind of things would all play into the commission's decision.
I would offer just deleting it altogether.
And let charter be silent to age. I think that's the best. All right.
All right?
Would that, just to clarify, backing up, would that also apply to the city commission discussion as well, or is this just limited to city manager?
We've set it by 18, which you have to be 18 to register to vote. So it might be a little redundant to say that you have to be 18, because once you're 18, then so if the charter's silent to it, it would sort of fall in the same criteria of you have to be a resident of the city of Newberry, those kinds of things. To me, it makes a little more sense to say for the elected officials, clearly you have to be 18. But I'm not sure I can articulate exactly why that is a difference between.
Mr. Mayor, I would say that for elected officials, or I guess for charter officers, the city clerk, city attorney, city manager, the elected officials are doing the selecting. Within the charter, when we define minimum characteristics for elected officials, it's the voters saying what they believe the minimum should be. And I think that probably distinguishes why the charter may have more detail about minimum requirements for an elected official as for a charter officer.
Well, and I think if you're moving it to a minimum age, then it has to be in the charter. If it's just 18, then it's 18, But if you're going to say that you have to be 21 to run, or you have to be 21 to hold an executive office, then it would have to be in the charter. Otherwise, the default in this country is at 18, you're an adult. You can apply, or you can put your name on a ballot. Okay, let's take public comment on this point.
Joy Glanzer. I just wanted to remind the commission that one of our best commissioners of all time was Clay Martin, and he was under 21 when he served, and actually he's with your firm. So I would just say that there are people that are qualified under 21 that I think could serve as a commissioner. I agree with the city manager in that level, that it may be 21, but I would support 18, the 18-year-old.
And I didn't even finish out one term and goes down in history as best city commissioner ever. Wow. Okay, so if it's 18, then the charter can simply remain silent on all of those points with the assumption that 18. Is that, what does legal have to say about?
That's correct. You have to be 18 to register to vote.
Okay. So we'll go, not only will the executive officers be silent, but it'll be silent to elected body as well? Is that what I'm hearing? And that's what I have a thumbs up for from the board? Silent across the board. All right,
All right.
moving along.
So now we get into city elections. This was, I believe, the last point of discussion. Basically, we're trying to decide whether we should keep 2-year terms or go to staggered 3-year terms. The Charter Review Committee has proposed having a second ballot question. So the first question being, do you approve the charter as amended? The second being, do you approve moving to 3-year staggered terms instead of 2-year terms? And if we do that, what will happen is we'll have 2 seats up for election every year.
And you have a chart that kind of shows.
I do. And so if you look
There.
here, what we would do is starting in 2020, we'd start moving 1 seat to a 3-year term. So by the time we hit 2022, every seat will be up for a 3-year term for election.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
I was thinking the reason that they were wanting to change, or the main reason I keep hearing, is because people don't want to have to come and vote every year. But, I mean, this doesn't change that at all.
There is no way, and there's no way that we can accomplish not having to vote every year with 3 years. You can do 4-year terms and have a year voting, a year off. With 3-year terms, the best you can do is vote 2 years, 1 year off, vote 2 years, 1 year off. So the Charter Review did not find that to be a compelling reason, because financially at that point you're saving about $6,000 spread out over a 3-year time period. The financial considerations were not that great. And what they found to be a more compelling reason was the inability to flip the majority of the commission in any one given year. So the way we have it now, this upcoming election will have 3 commissioners. So ostensibly, we could be virtually on the end of signing an agreement with the Ag Tech Park, have an election, all 3 of those commissioners lose, you have 3 new come in, and the city goes in a different direction. With staggered 3 years, you're 2, 2, and 2, you would have to at least make it through 2 cycles to divert the city into an entirely new direction. So that was the argument that the committee found more compelling than trying to have a 1 year off every 3 years. The other reason the committee felt this was better was because 4 years has already been voted down, I think twice at this point. So I think the residents of Newberry have made it pretty clear that they're not interested in a 4-year term. So if this commission wants to try to get a 3-year term, which there's plenty of arguments in favor of it, our extended term, 3 years is your best bet to move forward. But the financial considerations are pretty minuscule when you itemize them out over a 3-year period of time. And it wasn't and I think it's a little bit more confusing then, because who's up, who's not up, that kind of thing. That's my best summary of what was probably an hour conversation that night with the Charter Review team. Other thoughts? So this would just be, here's the charter, this is what's gone through the review committee, this is what's gone through the commission, 2-year terms, just the way it is right now. Separate question, standalone question. If that question had the majority, we would go back and alter the charter. If it failed, then the charter could move forward just the way it is with the way it is right now. Commissioner Norfleet.
If that, the 3-year term was voted in and showing on your chart 2020, the seat 3 would be a 3-year term, how would that work with the people voting, thinking that it was only going to be a 2-year term, or does it matter, or what?
For the 2020 election, how would it impact it? So
I think it would make the seat that's 3 years more competitive. So you'd have one seat that would be 3. It would be up to us to communicate to the people, we're moving to this 3-year staggered term. By 2024, all of the seats will be 3, but this is the 3-year seat right now.
But they wouldn't know it until after the election though, right?
No, we communicate
could-
ahead of time.
And I think we could put that on.
Oh,
the
you're
ballot.
talking about for this, but yeah.
We would put it on the
Right.
ballot, like what the year is for each seat.
But you wouldn't know that you was running for a 2-year or 3-year until after the.
Until after
That's
the results,
correct.
right.
And one way we could approach that as well is, this is one idea of how to go about the stagger terms. We could push it out until we see whether the 3-year stagger terms passes.
And my memory of the charter review would be that in 2020, all 3 seats would be the 2-year term, just moving forward. And then that way the next time. So we could change this chart up
Right.
so that it happens over time. But it was, I think there was a separate question that was related to that one. But if you're in a seat for 2 years, you have to finish out your 2-year term, then run for the 3 years. So we could either put it on the ballot, that 2020, this one's a 3-year seat if you want to run for that, or we just leave it all at 2-year and we start in 2021 staggering. Commissioner Martin.
I appreciate the Charter Review Committee spending an hour on it, but as Commissioner Farnsworth said, it doesn't solve the problem that that has been given to me most often, and this is almost a solution looking for a problem that isn't there. So this doesn't check a box for me at all, and I would just as soon leave it the way it's been, and just move on. Also respecting the understanding of you have the risk of flipping the commission, but that's just that's the way it is. But I also recognize the ability to let people decide that. But again, this isn't something that's been voiced to me, so this is. I don't really have any appetite for this.
Commissioner Coleman.
And I agree with, most of the citizens has been, is there any way we can get a break? So this ain't giving a break, so, it's not doing it the way they want it. I don't,
Commissioner
I'm
Farnsworth.
not for it.
Yeah, would I just keep it the way it is? The 2-year terms.
I'll say that the review committee was split almost 50-50 on even putting this option on the table, and it was only because I said that there were so many commissioners who were interested in entertaining a longer term length. Now, certainly the ones that were in favor were fairly adamantly in favor that 2 years is not enough time to get your feet under you and all those kinds of things. So it is a recommendation. If this board believes that there is an appetite in the community for a 4-year term, then you could put the separate question as a 4-year term and just say, the Charter Review Committee offered 3 years. We thought the 3 years was too confusing, but we have heard from the community that they want a break, so we're going to try for the 4 years again. You move forward absent the recommendation of the Charter Review Committee on that one, but it's this board's decision what that question is. Commissioner Martin?
At a risk of muddying the waters anymore, the only suggestion that I had offered going into this process was to try to mirror what the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate does, where it gives 1 or 2 seats alone a longer term that would serve as more of the institutional kind of knowledge base there. Maybe if one of the 3 seats here was a longer term, you wouldn't be able to flip the whole commission in one time. And I've honestly lost track of how the timing of that even works.
Well, the review committee had offered the mayor seat being a longer term. I thought that was not necessarily a bad idea. I just think it muddies the water. I think it makes it confusing. So I understand what you're saying. Is there anybody else on the commission who wants to consider changing and making 1 or 2 seats?
Let me, actually, before you, I would, even at that suggestion, I would just even default
It's a
back to what we've
lukewarm-
been doing, so.
Lukewarm suggestion.
Maybe just a moot point.
Commissioner Herzl?
Yeah, well, thanks, Monty. I appreciate Commissioner Martin's sentiment. The fact that we're all elected at large, I think tends to speak to the point where all terms are equal. The only thing that doesn't resonate with me very much is the complaint of having to vote every year. As a citizen of the United States, that's a right that we should enjoy and practice. And so that one doesn't resonate at all with me.
Okay, so I have one recommendation to reject the Charter Review Committee's separate question for a 3-year staggered term, and just the only thing on the referendum would be the ballot. Or do you want to have it as right now, it's a separate question. It could fail by itself and the charter could goes forward. Or you could remove it and not even give the people that option to check that box. I mean, it's a separate question.
When you phrase it like that,
Well, that's how we got to in the charter review, because one thing we were adamant about was we did not want the charter to fail based on this question. I need something here before I can open it up to the public.
say
though, so
I'm in favor
removing it, yeah.
I got 2 to reject it. Other 3 want to leave it as a separate question and let the people say yay or nay. Okay, so let's hear from the public about. Anybody have strong feelings? You want to leave it as a separate question? We do have a member of the review board here. So it seems like it's lukewarm. You want to leave it on there and see what the people say? That's what I got. 3, 50 plus 1. Commissioner Farnsworth.
One other thing that concerns me, and might be minor, but if it's put on the ballot this year with our general election, there'll be some people with the thought that, oh, so these commissioners are changing it now, so they'll be in for 3 years. Right. And that could have a negative connotation.
And I think that was why the Charter Review Committee recommended that you put it on there, but it doesn't take effect until 2021. So all of the 3 seats that are up now are 2-year terms, and everybody has a year knowing ahead of time that the next cycle it would start to move.
Right, but I'm not so sure that's how it's going to be perceived.
Yeah, well, perceptions are always. Yeah, and just change the chart, right. Yeah. Okay, citizen comment.
Jim Stainfield, citizen. I was also on the Charter Review Committee. Actually, I was going for just the 2-year terms myself, and I wasn't in favor of this personally. The reason being is this is confusing. You put this in front of the voters, it's just confusing, and it's just going to mess it up. And what happens if they reject the charter and pass this? It's kind of like, we got a mess. So I'm going, this is just kind of nuts. And I'm going, if you can find another way to do a longer term, great. But this, I don't think, I think it's just going to be a mess.
Joy Glanzer. I didn't understand, so does the charter review pass or fail for everything? It's all or nothing?
No, and the reason, so what will be in front, and we haven't determined the date yet, but let's just say the date is in April. There'll be one question: do you approve the charter as it is? And we'll have published it and advertised it. Then there'll be a second question: would you like to extend the commission term lengths to 3-year staggered terms? So this chart would not be on the ballot.
Separate,
We would
okay.
publish this, try to do community advocacy, or community education, not advocacy, but
So
education.
the other parts could pass?
So
and this-
the
okay.
charter could move forward, and I take Jim's comment to heart, but I can't really see of a situation where the charter fails, but the staggered term limits.
I would like to
approved.
see it on there for the citizens to decide. And I'm one of those people that I don't understand term limits. This is a whole nother issue, but it's the only job.
It's not a term limit.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but like that would be the only job that you're doing a good job and you get fired because you've been there too long.
Right.
The citizens decide who's going to sit here, And I think that's important. And if they want us to sit here 3 years, then I think that's important too. So.
Well, I mean, I've heard all of you at different times say, if there's, why not put it to the people? So I get that this is confusing, but I would also advocate that it's our job up here to be out there explaining what the difference is and what the pros and the cons are, and not advocating, but saying this is how it would work. And then the people can say no, or they say yes. Commissioner Coleman.
Well, the way you just put it earlier about it, really the question is, do you want the commission to go 3 years, pretty much, starting at this date? Put it out there. I agree with Commissioner Farnsworth too. The perception on some of them, it's like, oh yeah, we're advocating to be in here longer. But I think that we should. I think what I'm going to do here is go with let's get it on the ballot and let them decide. It is, because we have been talking. I mean, I've been on the commission almost 6 years now, and we've
Constant
talked about,
conversation.
Yeah. So let's. I'm for it. I don't think that the citizens are actually looking at this, like you said. They just you're just throwing out there, or do you want us to be on the dais for 3 years or not? And that's how it is.
And the citizens will not have another chance to voice their opinion for another decade. Essentially, right? Only do this when we have the charter. Commissioner Herzl?
No, I would be an advocate for giving the citizens the choice, especially since they only get to do it once every 10 years.
Okay, so fair enough now. I got one. Leave it on there, separate question, 3 year, but let's move the year to that it would start to 2021. And I do think that this is a useful chart once it's all established to help that education of what it would look like. Clearly, this won't be on the ballot, but and we still have to write the ballot language up. But the ballot language will essentially simply say, do you want the commissioners to have a 3-year staggered term? And it'll be up to us to talk to people about pros and cons and those kind of things ahead of time. Okay, so we had at least 4 there, which is a majority, so we're moving right along. Clear on that? Is that the last?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is the last discussion for potential changes to the charter. What I have from the conversation is we're going to keep the 10 days for swearing in after the election, at least 10 days after, and no more than 30. We're pulling out the minimum age limit for city manager position and running for office. We are allowing the 48 hours notice for calling, it's going off memory here, I apologize, calling conference session meetings, and we are keeping the language in special meetings and emergency meetings that it will be
Manager, mayor, 2 commissioners.
correct.
Commissioner Martin?
I'm sorry, I forgot, I didn't ask this before. The difference between special meeting and conference.
So a special meeting is called, and it would be held in the typical place of where meetings are held, so City Hall. A conference session can be held outside of City Hall. The definition we have in the charter is, I apologize, 1 second. I know, right? A conference session meeting, the city commission may meet in conference session at a place other than a regular meeting place, but no official action shall be taken at such conference meeting.
I believe another difference is that a conference meeting may not have the full commission there.
And Mr. Mayor, that's correct, because no action can be taken at a conference session meeting, so it would be.
But you would have staff, you would have minutes, you would have those kinds of things. Good? Okay, so we got up to the special meeting, emergency meeting, conference meeting, and then the last one was 3-year staggered terms.
Yes, sir, that's correct, and so those are the changes that y'all have suggested, and the appropriate motion would be to approve the Charter Committee's recommendations with the additional changes we've discussed today.
Okay.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any final thoughts, questions, considerations from the dais? Any thoughts, questions, considerations from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Well done, Mrs. Drew. Thank you so much.
Absolutely,
Now,
and there's one more
new
issue that
item
we have.
8.
for-
Is the date.
Yes, sir. So we have the date for the referendum election, and I believe the last workshop we had, we discussed potentially the spring 2020 election. In order to call a referendum election, we have to have an ordinance that announces that. We put the ballot language in the ordinance, and then, as with any election, there will also be a proclamation by the mayor.
Okay, so there's, and these are two separate, we'll call our election with the proclamation, same timeline as we always do.
Yeah.
We can piggyback the referendum onto our election, but it has its own separate timeline because it has to be done by ordinance, those kinds of things. The question was, there are 3 opportunities for us to put the charter on the ballot in front of the people. There are our city elections in April, they are the primaries in August, or they are the fall election with the general election. The primaries, not a great option, I believe, because most likely there won't be a Republican primary, so there won't be a lot of turnout there for one side. So I think that kind of takes us to April or the fall election. We know our city elections, our folks who are really engaged in municipal government, they're paying attention. The fall election will have a higher turnout, but the turnout may not be of people who are necessarily reading the charter, comparing the charter, the old charter, the new charter proposal, and very engaged. So our clerk has worked very, very hard to come up with a calendar that will fit the April. Our fall gives us plenty of time. So the question is, where do we want to do it on local April elections? Do we want to do it in fall? Of course, I think Commissioner Farnsworth was sort of alluding, one of the negatives of putting the charter on the April election is it sometimes turns our local elections more political, and so sometimes you don't get as good of a product because people are taking political stances instead of, well, I think that it could be both. If no local people are on the ballot, then, so it's, there's pros and cons on both. When we had 3, it seemed like the appetite was to go for the April and get it done with folks who were paying more engaged with local elections. Commissioner Martin.
My thought would be to keep it consistent with the city election, since it's a city-related functions that we're looking at.
Okay, I have one thought for April. Commissioner Farnsworth, you want to advocate for moving it to fall? See if you can convince other people's change their mind, or? No? Just going to accept it? Okay. Okay, so I'll have a vote I'll entertain a motion to hold our referendum in the April election season. Have that motion?
A motion to hold the charter
referendum
with the April city election.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Hersom, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions or comments on the dais? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, roll call. Commissioner Coleman? Aye. Commissioner Hersom? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth? Nay. Commissioner Martin? Aye. Commissioner Norfleet? Aye. And the ayes have it 4-1. We will hold our referendum piggybacked with our city elections on April. Last comment on that would be, I know that we can make the timeline work by having the ordinance ready January 13th. I think it would behoove everyone for us to give ourselves just a little bit of breathing room here and try to have that first reading for December 9th. If that creates too much of a burden on legal staff, speak now or forever hold your peace.
We can do that.
We can do that. Well, she already beat you to the punch. So there you go. Okay, I think that would, we've done an awful lot of work on this charter, and life happens. I think if we can give ourselves just a little bit of leeway, that would be beneficial. Ms. Ruber, any last things from legal on this? Madam Clerk, have we covered everything? You and legal have done the lion's share on this, so Have I missed anything? Well, I appreciate all y'all. Y'all have done the work, and I do appreciate it. Okay. We took a vote. Now we are, Mike, you want to take us through the remaining 2019 City Commission schedule? Tell us how we shouldn't have a meeting at the end of December? Christmas Eve meeting? I mean, that's where I want to be, Christmas Eve, right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, it's staff's position to present pros and cons. It's the commission's decision to make policy, and our meeting schedule falls under the category of policy. So we'll just point out that our regular meeting dates for December are the 9th and the 23rd. For the second and fourth Monday, the commission has an option of maintaining its regular schedule, changing the date of the second meeting to another day during the week. We could do it Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm kidding. Or scheduling for a different week, or canceling the meeting altogether. I'd say that typically we have canceled the meeting ever since I've been here. We don't have urgent, pressing business that the commission needs to consider. So I would point those things out and ask the commission to consider what they would like to do with our December 23rd meeting.
Thoughts on the 23rd? Have canceled, two for canceling it. We do have a lot of things on the 9th, but a lot of them are ceremonial. They're positive things that'll be enjoyable for the community to engage in. Any other thoughts about canceling it? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to cancel the second meeting in December.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Norfleet. Any questions or comments from the dais? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that moves us to city comments. Mr. Manager.
Well, Mr. Mayor, and if we had to make a recommendation on the meeting, I mean, staff enjoys spending quality time with the commission so much that we'd probably vote to maybe even add a third. No. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to start off first announcement. Today is happy birthday for Amy DeLucio, so please join me. Happy birthday, Amy. So her birthday gift from the city is that she comes in at 7 and gets to work a 14-hour day. 29. 29. Mr. Mayor, the city audit began today. So I think we started the meeting with some conversations about transparency and staying on top of our finances. I would say that I agree with echo your sentiments that our staff does a fabulous job. I would also, counter that we get great oversight from the commission. Remember that this audit firm works for the commission. So today was day one, nerve-wracking day for staff, but they'll be in working with us for the next several months until probably spring sometime when you'll get your CAFR report from them. We're again shooting for a no comments audit. Mr. Mayor, the Gatorback is holding their biggest race of the year. It's called the Mini-O's, the Thor Mini-O's. I believe racing started today and won't end until Saturday. I invite the commission, I invite the community to go out and check it out. It's not widely known in Newberry, but on motocross circuits, it's very widely known. It's one of the most prestigious event courses in the U.S., and just like to make sure our community gets out and sees some of the really cool things that happen in Newberry. Our offices will be closed Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving holidays. Solid waste schedule does shift back. Thursdays, regular collection, pushed back to Friday. Friday's regular collection pushes back to Saturday. We have all that on our social media accounts and our website. And finally, Mr. Mayor, on Friday, December 6th, beginning at 6 p.m., the city is conducting a Christmas tree lighting event. We hope that the commission and the community will turn out. We're actually getting a really warm reception from our social media accounts. We've got a lot of commitments. The city will be offering the event is free. Santa's going to be here. We're going to have photographs or photograph opportunities for kids, for children, and elected officials alike. There's caroling, there's cocoa, there's cookies, the 3 C's I was told. And the U.S. Marines are going to be conducting a toy drive for unwrapped gifts. So if you want to, there's a number of toy drives going on. The city's conducting one. I believe the police, what do they call that?
Basketball cop.
The basketball cop is conducting one. This is another opportunity. If you bring a toy, the U.S. Marines will get them and get them wrapped and get them distributed. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir.
6 p.m.
Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have our ethics training on December 5th from 4 to 8, so that's coming up very quickly. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you could RSVP with our office, that would be helpful for purposes of planning. If anybody knows right now that they're coming, you can just say so now. Okay.
I'll be there.
Great.
Commissioner Coleman, we'll ride together. Yeah.
You're already on the list. So.
He's coming for the steak. The one vegetarian up here. Okay.
That concludes
All right.
my comments.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk? Thank you, ma'am. All right. Commissioner Coleman?
This is the week that I have, it's never good. I married, 20-something years ago, I married this lady that graduated from Florida State University. And even though it's like one of the biggest times of the year, but it's not a win-win situation for me ever this week. So I'm not going to make any crude comments to Monty Farnsworth. I was told to not do that tonight by my wife, and
You have an example?
FSU and all that. So I'm going to keep that down. Number 2, the most important thing here. December the 9th meeting, I really, and that gives us a little time, but number 1 is I want to opt out of the county's 10-day waiting period on 5-day waiting period. I want to opt out of that, if all possible, for guns.
Now, wait a minute. Now, you advertised on social media you want to talk about it on December 9th. So you can't jump the gun and talk about it tonight. You got to let people know you're going to talk about it then.
Well,
they may come to support you.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't know to come to support you. You're jumping on them.
Well, and I mean, they've shown that it's just more overreach of government. And then with that, I want to get a resolution. A resolution for us to probably I know for all the cities here in Alachua County, be the first city to become a Second Amendment sanctuary city. And I know there's several of the people out there say, well, it doesn't have any teeth because we don't have our own police force. But I don't see that happening in Alachua County with the current sheriff that we have. So at least we're given notice, and because I'm big on our Second Amendment, so that's what I will be working on all the way up until December the 9th.
Yeah, I would ask that we put that on the very first meeting on January, since the 9th is already getting pretty full. We got a lot of proclamations. We want to recognize some sporting groups that have gone some.
Oh, that's right. The volleyball team
done some pretty good things this year.
And the football team.
So, is Commissioner fine with having that as a discussion item on the first meeting in January?
I'm good with that.
And then we can lay out all of the good.
Sounds great, sir.
Any other comments tonight?
No, that's it.
Commissioner Herson.
I'm good.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Do we know when the Christmas parade is going to be?
Yep, it is December 21st. I think it's December 21st. Yeah. 5:30. Same route, but I think it's a little shorter this year. I don't think we're going all the way down to First Avenue. I think we're going to turn, so compact it a little bit.
Mr. Mayor, I think they've taken the average place where the Rio dies and call that the end.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, we've
right in,
averaged it
from
over the
the
last
beginning
5
of
years.
Walker's Produce to the end of Walker's Produce.
About a block and a half.
All right, Commissioner Martin. Commissioner Norfleet? I just wanted to say thank you to the Newberry Main Street organization. The festival was amazing this year. It was such a great turnout. I had the opportunity to be there most of the day and to see the constant flow of people. I mean, from start to finish, there were people there, and there were people there after, there was a little bit of confusion about when we were ending, and that's because there were so many people who were still there long after the advertised time. So I know Sycamore Lane expressed to me that he was really appreciative. I talked to some other local businesses that liked it, residents. So I know all the work that goes into that. Thank you guys for doing that for the town. It was really nice. I want to thank we do have some Lions Club members here as well, right? Right here, right there. Myself. Thank the Newberry Lions Club and the Norfleet family for bringing the rodeo into town. That, too, was amazing. I mean, it was just a great weekend here in the city of Newberry. I know that the first night for the rodeo, they had over 1,000 people there in Newberry. So that's wonderful to see that happen. So to have that many events going on in the city of Newberry all in one weekend was great. The mayor's already mentioned the tree lighting. We also have a new initiative to take where the farmers market is, Berry Park, and create a Christmas tree park. So the flags are out right now. If your church, club, organization, business, family wants to decorate a Christmas tree, we've got some new electrical hookups in Berry Park. I've got the flags that are out. Wherever there's a flag, decorate your tree, put it up. Leave your plug hanging at the end, and we'll come in, we'll get them all connected and try to get them timed so they all come off and on. I recommend artificial trees because nobody's going out there to water them for you, but so far the Newberry FFA has agreed to put up a tree. The golf team is putting up a tree. The Watermelon Festival is putting up a tree. There's, I think, Oak View's student government is putting up a tree. So many for bragging rights. All right, now, one Oreo cookie. I'm on the hook. I'll leave sugar refined cupcake to the winner. How about that? And I get to pick the winner. It'll be the Marlowe Farm tree. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. I'm going to be out Worth Main Street taking down the fall festivals on Friday. I've got my golf team coming out. My family's going to put up our tree on that Friday. So if you want to come out Friday and put up a tree, but anytime, I would try to get them up before December 6th so that we can try to have them on while everybody's downtown. But we just like to really go all out and celebrate Christmas this year and show everybody the spirit. We have an invitation. Other question? Do you have a question on that? I have 15 flags that are out now, but there's plenty of space to put more. So I was going to see, kind of what I think we've got 6 or 7 commitments. Miss Jenny has a law enforcement tree that I'm very excited to see. She had a local artist hand paint all the decorations to support law enforcement. I think that's a great idea. So, we'll see. But we can add, if we fill it up, I'll go out and put out more flags and we'll keep on going. We have a standing invitation Wednesday morning for a tour of the Mini-O's. If anybody wants to join me, I'm going to go out there about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning and kind of tour the facility. If you haven't been out there while the racers are going, it's definitely worth a trip to see it. Well, I'll take one of you at a time, right? One of you at a time. No, I mean, there's nothing to vote on. They've already got their permit, so they're good to go. But we'll separate you up just for perception's sake, I also want to thank CLF Church. They had Thanksgiving in the park on Sunday. There was probably 200-300 people that were out there that got fed. County Commissioner Mary Helen Wheeler came out to celebrate with them. We also have Church of Christ here, offers a free Thanksgiving meal on Thanksgiving, right? On Thanksgiving, so 11:30 to 2. So I know they would love you to come there. Thanks to Methodist Church for feeding everybody every single Sunday night at 5 o'clock at the MLK Center. Is that going to happen this Sunday, Joy? This Sunday after Thanksgiving still?
Yes, every Sunday.
Every Sunday. So even this Sunday after Thanksgiving, lots of opportunities. And I believe that does it for me. Okay, so public comment. Miss Linda? No, come on down, Miss Lisa.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit. I know you're talking about the tree lighting at 6 o'clock. That is also the same night that we're going to announce.
I forgot to mention it. Yes, we did mention it earlier. The 2 minute. Yeah. Very excited. Commissioner Norfleet's already seen all 20 entries. So hopefully we got some good ones. This will be the winner of that one will be the artwork that is displayed on whatever the paraphernalia for the 125-year celebration is, whether it's cups or hats or plates, T-shirts, right? We'll splash it all over the place. So, and if you're the one that you like doesn't get picked, I'm sure that the artist will have it on display at the Firehouse Gallery. There, you might be able to purchase it for yourself. All right. Any other public comment? Ms. Linda, you sat here the whole night. Miss Linda's fresh off of a camping weekend. Yes. Okay, thank you. You can sit down now. We appreciate it.
We talked about all the things that's happening. The flags on the lawn, and I know that you've organized all of that. And that was wonderful. It's been very appreciated, and a lot of people mentioned it. Those, I don't know what you call them, those flag things that, we never had those before you came. So thank you for that. And you know that I found all the lights in New York City a few years ago, so.
That's why we all have lights.
Okay, now, Miss Linda, I need you to
He had nothing to
rewind.
do with the lights. It was me.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Well, our microphone wasn't on, and you speak so clearly, I didn't realize it, but you were just in the middle of thanking us for all these things, and the people at home didn't get to hear them.
Thank you for all of the
thank you for the
flags on the
flags.
lawn, the flags
don't get
on the
this very
poles.
often,
What do you
so-
call those things?
What do we call those? Banners.
When it says
Light
Happy
pole banners.
Thanksgiving,
Yes.
banners, light banners. Thank you. Okay. The lights that we
Which you
got.
brought from New
How
York
many
City.
years ago did we get lights? We lost the lights and then we had to
2
find
years?
lights.
2 years? 3 years
3
ago.
years ago. Good job on the lights. Let's see. I was thinking we have horses at the end of the parade. We will arrange for one of the horses to catch up with the Rio,
Thank you.
and they can pull the Rio on through to get us to the end of the parade. And that's all, but thank you sincerely, really, for having it. And it has helped the city. Pardon?
I said, thank you all for the decorations in Main Street for the fall.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was a day. Whew. But we got it done.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Other public comment? You haven't used the whole 2 minutes any time yet, so you're just working on 30-second
Get in,
increments.
get out. I did just want to mention, I wanted to publicly put it up here, that Main Street has approached all of the businesses at the request of the city to get them all to put white lights in their windows, and we are clarifying with them that we want the soft white lights. I think we didn't make that clear as we went around the first time. Window lights. Is that? Okay. Yeah, we had asked when we went around and kind of reintroduced ourselves to Main Street, talked about the art contest and the things that we had going on. Then we also had a flyer in there that talked about decorating all the windows in white lights.
Thank you. Okay, other public comment? Hearing none? We are adjourned.